On today's show, we've found a grand way to go pheasant hunting, where the hunting lodge is very grand and the ringnecks fly into the air in a grand way.
Ooh, look at that, smells good.
Later, a wild game treat awaits when we go wild in the kitchen with one of my favorite pheasant recipes prepared by Laura and her mother, Denise.
So good.
Our Minnesota Bound Classic this week remembers one of Minnesota's most famous duck hunting camps, the St. Paul Pass, where ducks and hunters still gather. Those stories and more next.
Minnesota Bound. Brought to you by Minnesota's Select GMC dealers.
Hi everybody, Raven and I welcome you to the show. You know, the word grand has lots of grand ideas, right? But when you say you're going hunting at Grand Lodge, you go, oh my, what can that be? Let me just answer that. It's grand. Putting a new choke in. It says never miss on the side. That's the perfect choke. Never miss.
Hang on, we're going on a South Dakota pheasant adventure that's going to be just grand. Meet Steve Carney, a grand shot on clay birds. And this is Eric Olson, a grand fisherman, grand trap thrower.
Big or small, hit them all. Ready?
Good shot.
Yeah, baby! I think you boys is ready.
Yes, ready for a grand bird hunt that begins in a grand way. Where? In the small South Dakota town of Highmore, a wide spot on Highway 14 east of the Missouri River. And here it is. Grand Lodge. By night or by day, Grand Lodge is everything grand. And in the great room, no different. Grand fireplace, grand mounts, and grand hosts. Michael Solberg is a South Dakota farmer who loves the land, cropland, and pheasant land.
We started out having groups of hunters just on the farm, you know. It was so easy that there were so many birds. We thought, why not do it all the time, because there's enough birds to do a lodge deal and not have to worry about it. It's fun meeting new people, and you create friends out of the deal. You know, some of these guys have been here they were here for 2 years before we opened the lodge, and they're all friends now.
I will never forget the day we were driving around with a couple of our friends, and we pulled over to this gas station across the street, and my husband said, I just bought that land right across the street. And I said, well, yeah, I knew you were going to do that. And he goes, well, we're going to build a lodge there. That was the one good thing when he said he was going to build this lodge. I thought, oh, I don't have to have all these mounts in my house.
The idea of Grand Lodge is grand everything, including grand fields of ringneck dreams.
Oh God, yeah. Way down there.
While Mike was combining corn and pushing birds up, Steve, Eric, and myself hunted the edge. The strategy worked.
I think I got that one.
I think you got it.
Fact is, the combine was stirring things up in a grand way. And then, lo and behold, the combine found one of our dead pheasants that even the dogs had missed. Or should I say, the combine driver found it.
Yep, that was the one. Cool, thanks. That's the one. Well, when you need to find a bird, just bring the case along and have it dig it up for you.
Well, that's one way to get a pheasant, Eric. Yeah, combine retrieve.
And it was time for Mike to join us with his army of labs. When we return, we'll continue our pheasant hunting adventure at Grand Lodge. Stay with us.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers, Rapala Ice Force, Star Bank, and by Connecticut.
All right, time now to return to Grand Lodge, where the accommodations are special and the birds keep on a-flying. Polaris Swimo for pheasant hunters, what we got here.
We were ready for a grand assault on pheasant land.
Not too far away. Nice shot, Eric.
Yeah!
It wasn't long, Michael's hunting vest was full of ringnecks in a grand way, and they kept flying. And the dog team hunted in unison.
He's the dog whisperer. Look at that. What a hunting crew you got.
Michael Solberg has a team of Labrador retrievers that hunt like clockwork. Hunting with 3 to 6 labs at a time isn't easy, but it can be done.
Good shot.
Yeah, on the third shot.
Steve and I are impressed, but Michael simply understands. His pheasant plan is working.
It all works together, you know, the farming and the cattle and the hunting, everything feeds off the other one, you know.
I've been hunting pheasants for 40 years the hard way, the Minnesota way, carrying around the same box of shells for 3 years, you know, that type of thing. And then when you come out to an area like this, it's mind-boggling to see the pheasant numbers.
It is probably the most incredible experience pheasant hunting you'll ever have. Be prepared to be in awe of the number of birds, number one. Number two, you don't have to shoot every bird that gets up.
Rooster, rooster! Rooster!
Yeah, I should have had 2 of them there.
It looked good, though.
Many more ringnecks were still flying or just hanging out. So yes, we left lots of birds behind us. More birds for the next hunters. More birds for seed for next year. And that's just grand.
I'm so excited to cook with you today.
Coming up, we're going wild in the kitchen, and that's always a tasty idea, especially with pheasant on the menu.
Ooh, look at that, smells good.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Border View Lodge.
Time now to go wild in the kitchen with one of my favorite pheasant recipes. Wife Denise and daughter Laura do the cooking.
It's a special edition of Wild in the Kitchen, ladies and gentlemen, because we are here revealing the master chef behind all the wild game that's been in Ron Shera's freezer all of these years, and it's my mother, Denise Shera.
Oh, thank you, Laura.
I'm so excited to cook with you today. So we are going to be cooking a recipe that's been special to you and our family for quite a few years, and we're using pheasant.
Yes, and it's a cranberry salsa with pheasant.
Okay, so what are the first steps to getting started?
Well, prepping your pheasant, and Ron does an excellent job of that, getting it all in these bite-sized pieces, which we will dust in flour, which we have over here. And the rest is the prep for the salsa. And so it's 2 steps, pheasant in the oven and the cranberry salsa stirred to warm.
All right, let's get started with the pheasant.
All right. Well, Laura, this is what we do. We take the pheasant tenders and we're going to dust them in this flour mixture. 2 cups of flour, and if you will add some thyme.
Okay, we're gonna sprinkle in some thyme. Black pepper, is it just a pinch or?
A teaspoon. And the same with the Lowry's.
Lowry's. Just gonna give a couple dashes in here.
Just mix that together, and then we take the pheasant and just dust them in this and get them ready to saute.
All right, looks like our pheasant's ready for the saute pan.
Let's do it. When you put the pheasant in the pan, you want it to sizzle in the butter, but be careful that it doesn't burn. You just want to do it a minute or 2 on each side and brown it up. You don't cook it through to the center. You'll do that when it's in the oven. All right, they're ready for the oven, 350 degrees, 10 to 15 minutes.
All right, now that our pheasant is in the oven, we're going to whip together our cranberry salsa.
Yes, and everything's in the prep, and it's 2 tablespoons of the pecans, roasted, lime zest, and the cilantro, 2 red peppers roasted, and orange zest, 2 tablespoons, and 2 tablespoons of orange juice, a little bit more in there, but that's all right.
Freshly squeezed orange juice.
And of course, the main ingredient,
raisins.
Yes.
So I'm just gonna give this a little stir here.
Yes, and you can see how colorful it is, and in 10 to 15 minutes, it'll be ready to put on your pheasant.
All right, so to the stovetop we go.
Here we go. And Laura, at the end, I'd like to add a little bit of sweet to it to cut down the acidity of the orange and the lime zest.
Just about a tablespoon or 2. Ooh, look at that, smells good.
All right, Laura, it's time to eat.
Now you're saying the magic words.
Yes, the pheasant's ready. Add a little salsa and
I notice you like to serve this with a little bit of wild rice.
I do. All right, Laura, time for a try. Let's see if it measures up.
Now this has been in our family for over 20 years.
It has.
So good. Cheers to you, Mom, for being such an amazing chef all these years. And we're happy to share Shera family recipes with yours. So don't forget to get wild and have some wine in the kitchen.
Still ahead. For generations of duck hunters, this was a premier place to hunker with a shotgun.
There's some ducks coming right at us.
It's called the St. Paul Pass, and it's still a place for waterfowl.
Never hit either one of them.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Ellsworth Cooperative Creamery, Radco Truck Accessories, Totem Resorts, the premier destination for world-class fishing.
When you think of duck and goose hunting in Minnesota, waterfowling, it's a long tradition with a colorful history. Such is the case in our next story about a place called the St. Paul Pass.
Nifty places, memorable spots. Minnesota has a bunch of those. But this place, this narrow strip of land, is hallowed ground if you're a Minnesota duck hunter. It's a place called St. Paul Pass.
It's always been kind of famous. My dad and Carpy, they bought it 40-some years ago.
Carpy was Reed's grandfather and Dean his father, both die-hard duckmen who coveted the St. Paul Pass.
There's a 1,200-foot point, and there's only really about 3 acres here total. But the point cuts the lake in half. It's always been a natural flyway.
Natural because the St. Paul Pass is located on North 10 Mile Lake near Fergus Falls in western Minnesota. So what's St. Paul have to do with it? The answer dates back to 1920, when a group of duck hunters from St. Paul owned the pass. Since then, the private duck club has changed many hands, and even corporations such as General Mills once leased the place. But the name has stuck. And a century-old clubhouse still stands.
This is the original cabin. It's over 100 years old. It's always been here. It's been remodeled a few times. No running water. There's a couple of beds and some heat and a refrigerator and a stove, and that's about it.
If only the duck shack walls could talk. In a way, they do.
1984. Some guy named Ron Shera was in Elbow Lake and he wrote an article.
You looked a little younger too. 1975. Recognize that signature?
I believe that's Ron Shera.
Look at that. You've got a half a century of guests here. A lot of duck hunters, a lot of memories here. A lot of duck stories.
Duck Club member Dennis Delzer remembers.
Well, the first time I hunted it, it was super good hunting. I can sit here in the blind, watch the sun come up, watch the ducks fly off the end of the point, and never shoot my gun and still have a great time. And that's what it's all about for me now.
Indeed, if the ducks are migrating come autumn, the good hunting is thanks to this natural peninsula. It's on a migratory path. Hunters hunker by decoys, crouch in blinds, and wait for ducks to fly by or pass over, hence the term duck pass.
I spend as much time as I possibly can during the season. I started coming up here in 1993. It's all about the tradition and the lore. You always think back to our forefathers and the people that were here before us.
To love duck hunting is to love chilly dawns and raw autumn winds, winds that bounce life into lifeless decoys.
St. Paul Pass. Here's why you come here.
Some ducks fly too high, but some do not. The morning flight is on, a ducky version of rush hour.
Take your best shot, yeah. Put it in my gander.
There's some ducks coming right at us.
Never hit either one of them.
My eyes aren't as trained for ducks as my fellow hunting partners here. They're seeing ducks 20 seconds before I do. That's a big disadvantage.
Duck flights wind down, of course. Duck seasons come to an end. But the duck places in Minnesota, historic in their own way, still rekindle memories of duck hunters past or enrich the lives of duck hunters present. It's been that way for 100 years here on the St. Paul Pass.
Very special place with duck hunters and so many memories there. Well, that about does it for us. Remember, introduce a kid to the great outdoors, introduce him to duck hunting. I'm Ron Shera, of course, always the star of the show, who is quite a duck hunter, is Raven. Yeah, that's you. That's you. Yeah.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800-899-7433. To get more Minnesota Bound, including full episodes, go to mnbound.com. And to follow our latest adventures, like us on Facebook.